Welcome to this explainer. Okay, picture this. The average American household is hauling around over $100,000 in total debt. Over 100 grand. When you're staring down that kind of mountain, consumer loans, maxed out credit cards, it is incredibly easy to just feel completely paralyzed. Most people assume getting out of debt requires years and years of agonizing sacrifice, living on literally nothing but rice and beans. But when we actually look at the behavioral data of the people who manage to escape it, a completely different, highly specific pattern emerges.
Now, you might be wondering, does debt freedom require wealth? We tend to assume that escaping this maze absolutely requires a massive six-figure salary or some extreme stroke of luck, like a huge inheritance. But the research points out a really surprising truth here. High income actually doesn't strictly correlate with debt freedom. In fact, a shocking percentage of people earning well over $100,000 a year are still living entirely paycheck to paycheck. So wealth isn't the prerequisite for getting out of the hole. Structured, intentional behavior is.
Getting out of debt isn't about magic. And surprisingly, it isn't even about sheer willpower. Actually, scratch that. Relying on willpower alone is a known psychological recipe for total burnout. Instead, it is entirely about executing a structured, mathematical sequence. Think of it kind of like a behavioral cheat code. When you break down the financial psychology, it's a precise process that absolutely anyone can replicate. It lets you bypass the need for endless, exhausting motivation and replaces it with undeniable momentum.
So, what's the plan? Let's map out this sequence and see the exact blueprint. We're going to cover stopping the bleeding, facing the numbers, choosing your attack strategy, finding the hidden money, triggering the domino effect, and finally, getting to the starting line.
All right, step 1. Stop the bleeding, plug the leaks.
This first step actually has absolutely nothing to do with paying off your debt. I know, that sounds completely counterintuitive when all you want is to see those balances drop. But imagine trying to empty a bathtub while the tap is still running full blast. You're just going to end up with a flooded bathroom, a massive water bill, and a whole lot of frustration. And honestly, that is the exact behavioral trap most people fall into with their credit cards. If you work your tail off to pay down a balance, but then immediately swipe it again for a weekend trip, you are furiously bailing water out of a running tub. The golden rule, the absolute no exceptions prerequisite, is that you must completely stop acquiring new debt first. You have to turn off that faucet so the problem stops growing before you can ever hope to drain the tub. Moving on to step 2. Face the numbers and unmask the monster.
Once that faucet is firmly off, you have to look at the map to escape the maze. This means documenting the exact numbers you owe. Now, human behavioral psychology shows that we actively avoid looking at our financial accounts because, well, ambiguity just feels safer than facing a harsh reality. But there's this well-documented psychological concept called cognitive offloading. By writing down a hard number, let's say $14,582, you strip away the vague, terrifying anxiety of the unknown. Ambiguity breeds fear, for sure, but exact numbers, they turn financial monsters into manageable checklists. Debt literally loses its emotional power over you the very second it becomes a defined line item on a spreadsheet, rather than this scary shadow hiding in the back of your mind.
Step 3. Choose your attack strategy. Basically, pick your weapon.
Now it's time to choose your tactical attack. In behavioral economics, there are two main paths for debt elimination, and they cater to two very different types of thinkers. First, we've got the debt snowball method. This is where you pay off your smallest debt first, completely ignoring the interest rate. It's designed to give you a quick, punchy emotional victory and a massive hit of dopamine to build immediate motivation. On the flip side is the debt avalanche method, where you tackle the debt with the highest interest rate first. This is the optimal mathematical win, designed to save you the absolute maximum amount of money on interest over time. So one strategy optimizes for emotional momentum, and the other optimizes for sheer mathematical efficiency. But here's the real kicker from the behavioral data. People fail not because they pick the mathematically wrong method, but because of analysis paralysis. They spend months constantly switching strategies, trying to find some perfect, magical shortcut that simply doesn't exist. The absolutely most important thing here is to just pick one. Whether you need the psychological win of the snowball or the rational satisfaction of the avalanche, you must pick one road, trust the process, and firmly stick to it without second-guessing yourself. Step 4. Find the hidden money. Fuel the fire.
To actually execute your chosen strategy and start seeing real progress, you're going to need fuel. The reality is, debt-free people don't magically get a massive promotion overnight to solve all their problems. They get temporarily resourceful. Canceling a few digital subscriptions you never use, selling that stuff, collecting dust in the garage, picking up a few overtime hours, or maybe just trading a couple of weekend dinners for home-cooked meals. These can easily free up a few $100 extra a month. You don't need to invent a permanent new career or drastically change your entire identity. You just need to execute a few actionable lifestyle adjustments long enough to plug the leaks and gain some serious momentum. It's a temporary lifestyle squeeze designed to buy your permanent financial freedom.
Step 5. The domino effect. This is where you build that addictive momentum.
This is the moment everything changes. The weird thing about the psychology of debt is that attacking and paying off that very first balance is always the hardest part. It feels slow, it feels heavy. But once that first debt hits zero, oh man, your brain physically changes. You get this massive dopamine hit of pure belief. Suddenly this isn't just a theory anymore, it's reality. Then the money you were using to pay minimums on debt number 1 rolls over to attack debt number 2. Debt 2 gets smaller, significantly faster. Then debt 3 gets completely obliterated even faster than that. A totally addictive momentum takes over as your remaining financial obligations fall just like a line of dominoes. You experience a total paradigm shift, moving permanently from playing defense to aggressively playing offense.
Finally, step 6, the starting line, which marks a permanent shift.
Before we pop the champagne, there is a massive trap here, highlighted in the data, that we need to talk about. A lot of people put in the grueling work to finally hit zero, only to fall right back into crippling debt just months later. Why does this happen? Because they treated the symptom but never changed the underlying behavioral habits that created the debt in the first place. Getting out of debt isn't the finish line, where you suddenly get to go back to your old spending ways. No way. It is merely the starting line for your entirely new financial life. To ensure that present door stays open forever, you have to upgrade your psychological operating system and permanently change your relationship with consumption.
Becoming debt-free isn't about being financially perfect every single day of your life. It's about making one disciplined decision at a time, taking it 1 month at a time, and above all, refusing to quit when a random Tuesday doesn't go exactly as planned. Remember, escaping the debt trap doesn't belong to the smartest economists or the luckiest trust fund babies. Financial momentum belongs to the resilient. It belongs to the people who build a system, leverage human psychology to their advantage, and simply refuse to give up when things get tough.
So I want to leave you with a question to help you take your very first step today and break the cycle of analysis paralysis. Ask yourself right now, which debt are you knocking out first? Unmask the monster by writing down the number, pick your attack strategy, and make that psychological commitment today. Your future self is waiting for you to flip the switch and start the sequence. Let's get to work.